All right. Hey, good evening, Wyoming. Joseph Kibler here. Thank you so much for watching my live stream. I really, really appreciate it. This is the first time I've got technology in several places here, so bear with me. This is kind of a dry run tonight. We're going to do a little virtual town hall and live streaming, so I really, really look forward to having you all here, and hopefully you guys enjoy this time. I'm here to answer your questions tonight, and also just to talk a little bit about my platform. So with that, I'm Joseph Kibler, and I am running to be the next governor of Wyoming, and I really appreciate you guys being here tonight. You know, I came to Wyoming with my young family because I knew exactly what I wanted for them. You know, a place where we could grow with wide open spaces, and values that aligned with our own, wide open opportunities, and the freedom really for them to build the kind of future that they would want to build. And Wyoming really, I guess, just stood out to us as a state that still held true to those principles of hard work, self-reliance, and personal liberty, and when I got here, or when we got here as a family, I was I'll be honest, I was a little surprised to find that so much of what we kind of thought we were going to find in Wyoming, we were seeing a lot of the same kind of sideways politics and policies were creeping into Wyoming. The same government overreach, the same endless bureaucracy, the same tired and temporary fixes, that have failed people in other states, and I kind of feel like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like a lot of our politicians are so focused on maintaining the status quo, and they're so focused on creating deeper political polarization and more grandstanding than standing up for Wyoming and Wyoming's future. That realization didn't just concern me. It really, quite frankly, it inspired me to act. I knew that if we wanted to protect Wyoming's way of life, we would need real leadership that would push back and cut through the nonsense and deliver real lasting solutions instead of sort of these endless layers of legislation that we're seeing, right now in our lives. That's really making our lives more complex. I don't know how many of you are watching the current legislative session, and there are a lot of wonderful people in the House, in the Senate. These are people that align with my values. If you check out my website, you will see that my core values align a lot with these folks that are in the legislature right now, and what I guess I could say was what I'm disappointed in seeing is we got kind of like we're getting these massive more layers of legislation, to making all of our lives complex. But I want you to think about this. And by the way, just so you guys know, I'm looking several ways because I've got a couple cameras. I've got a live camera, and then I've got a camera in front of me too. So I want you to think about this. Not only is a lot of this making our lives more complicated as citizens, as individual people, but it is also making lives harder for educators, other public servants, other people that are trying to do a job. And we're kind of hog-tying them because of just more layers of legislation instead of looking at what we have and maybe finding a solution and fixing it. We're finding that we're making things harder. And this is part of why I'm running for governor. Over the years, I've had the privilege of volunteering in my local community, working across really different communities as well in various areas of public and private service. I was a firefighter for 20 years, and I've always had an interest in government. And so with that, I've had hundreds, if not thousands of conversations with people my entire life about the things that shape their lives, their perspectives, and their beliefs, and I take that to heart. Even yesterday, I spoke with a couple of people at the coffee shop. I was just there working, and a couple of people saw I had my Bible open, stuff like that, and they made conversation, and we were talking, and just kind of hearing what makes them tick and what they care about, is something that's just really, really important to me. And so today I want to share with you my platform in running for governor. And there's really 4 guiding principles, or pillars, if you will, on why I'm running for governor. So those 4 guiding principles are really at the heart of my campaign and what I'm doing. And you know what? I'm going to adjust this one camera just a little bit so that I'm a little more centered. There we go. Okay, cool. And that is faith, family, freedom, and the future. And what I want to do is kind of explain to you what these mean to me and these cornerstones mean to me, and how I will use this as my approach to solve a lot of the big problems that we face. So before I dive into like specifics about policy, I want to say this. As your governor, I will approach the job not as a politician who just simply, I guess you could say, manages problems, right? But as a neighbor who is entrusted with the responsibility to lead. And that's the mindset that I'm going to bring. It really is, how do I say this? It's bringing a servant's heart, really, to the government, to the legislature, to leadership. I want to serve. I want to bring a servant's heart. And I have a lifetime that I've spent serving in various ways. And through that service and through that passion, maybe we can get together, bring people to the table, and come up with lasting solutions that will benefit everyone in Wyoming. So let's start with the 4 pillars of my campaign. I want to start firstly with faith. You know, for me, this isn't just about personal belief. You know, it is a wellspring of hope and perseverance that I think sustains so many of us through difficult times. You know, Wyoming, we've had a lot of things happen in the last couple of weeks that have hurt our hearts. You know, the accident in the tunnel, you know, up by Green River. You know, the mother who took the lives of her children, and many other things that have grieved our hearts. You know, and for me, that's when my faith gets stronger. You know, throughout history, people of faith settled Wyoming, you know, here in Wyoming. You know, you see the reflection of the pioneer spirit all across Wyoming, you know, and a spirit of reverence towards God, towards the land, and really towards each other as well. And, you know, one of the things I want to mention is this idea of respect and reverence towards each other. You know, I'm involved in a lot of conversation right now. And I think one of the things that saddens me is how polarized and hateful we have become towards people who don't agree with how we believe, you know, and really what they just want is they want to be heard, you know. And so I think that's something that's important to me. It ties into my faith that, you know, it informs me in my sense of responsibility for public service. You know, it also creates a deep moral framework for myself and really for all of us. You know, it reminds us that we need to champion policies that protect people's liberties. You know, even if we don't agree with them, you know, that their liberties are protected, you know, and that is so, so very important. The next thing is family. Let's talk about family a little bit. You know, I have 3 young kids, ages 10, 8, and 4, and we homeschool them. And family is the backbone and the bedrock of any healthy society. And I think we all know that. And that attack on the family, it totally corrupts our entire system, our entire culture. You know, so when we think about the idea, if family goes beyond just blood, you know, it goes beyond close-knit bonds of a tight-knit nuclear family. It is also community, you know, and in this sense of community and family, we rise and we fall together. You know, we support each other. One of the things I'm committed to is strengthening families. And this starts with ensuring our kids have a good education. And I'll talk about that in a little while. I know education is not a primary topic of this video for a reason, because it's too deep. But what I want to do is just say this. We need to realize that our education system has got to equip our kids for a modern world. And I think we've been legislating education to death, and I'll get into that in just a little while. But they are our greatest investment. We also need to make sure that families, rural and urban, have access to the quality health care and the mental health services that they need. Too often, lack of resources or distance creates a barrier. As governor, I will fight for families that they have within their reach and their grasp the resources and things that they need, but not only from government, because honestly, you guys, we need to stop referring the responsibility of everything to government, and we need to support local services and local businesses and help them thrive to support their communities instead of having government involved in everything. Our families also need to obviously be safe and have supportive communities. And that's why I will focus community programs that will assist and support families, and I will support the organizations that support the families, and maybe try to get government out of it. The third thing is freedom. So let's talk a little bit about freedom. Freedom is woven into the fabric of America, right, you guys? Freedom is something that our forefathers came here for, primarily religious freedom, freedom of expression, all of these things that people came for. And people will abuse freedom, right? And do evil and do wrong things. But as a whole, as we cherish our constitutional freedoms that we have, our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, most of us here share really a deep respect for self-reliance and personal responsibility. Values that define how we see ourselves and our role in government are our foundation of that being freedom. But freedom is just not about just preserving individual liberties. It is also about limiting the scope of government, and that's something that we don't think a lot about. When government, we all know, when government gets too big, and we're seeing that fully displayed, especially at the federal level, when government gets too large, it burdens small business. I have a small business, by the way. It burdens families with unnecessary red tape, and it chips away too at local governance as well. Wyoming communities, but Wyoming individuals, you as individuals, we all deserve to have a government that does not live in our backyard, providing us with the necessities that we need, right, you guys? Providing us with the resources that we need without micromanaging every single one of us in our own backyards. It's so important. As governor, I'll continue to stand firmly for our constitutional liberties. But not only that, protect our Second Amendments, advocate for responsible leadership and government, local and federal and state level governments. We cannot take, I think one of the things that a lot of us do is we take the freedoms for granted here in Wyoming. And what we don't realize is for decades, some of those freedoms have been being chipped away at, they're chipping away at those freedoms. And so we want to make sure that we reclaim those freedoms. And a lot of us don't realize that so many of these freedoms have been taken away. The fourth pillar of my campaign is future. Wyoming has a legacy of resilience and innovation, right, you guys? We've got ranching and energy and tourism and a wide range of industries that keep our state strong. But a lot of the legislation and a lot of what we're seeing in government right now is short-sighted. And it's not considering this fourth point of my running for governor, which is the future. We're facing many challenges right now. Job markets are shifting, right? Especially with technology. Now, I've experienced that in my own life and my own business, where we realized that technology was beginning to make us obsolete, essentially, and we had to make some hard changes to shift in that. And as such, our future depends on acknowledging that these changes are happening around us and that we need to take bold steps in energy and innovation and tourism to grow our state and to grow the ability of our state to serve its people and not burden its people like it is now in a lot of ways, diversifying, our economy. We've got Mr. Reed, who has decided to maybe bring TikTok to Wyoming. Interesting idea. We'll see what happens. I think we're going in the direction where that might make a lot of sense for Wyoming. That is part of our investment into high technology and good paying jobs. We should also, we can't just think about technology. We need to support our ranchers, our farmers, help them adapt with modern techniques, help them connect with broader markets. We got to pass that way of life that Wyoming holds so dear and that we love in Wyoming to the next generation. So why am I running for governor? I've kind of shared with you some of it in a broad sense, but I want to get more detailed with you on this. I'm running because I firmly believe that Wyoming needs leadership that does not just patch problems. Again, layers and layers and band-aids and band-aids and band-aids and band-aids on issues and matters and things that concern all of us today. And what we're not doing is getting to the root of these issues and going, hey, what's the root cause of these issues? Why are we here with property taxes? What has caused this? And how can we fix it? Instead of getting to that issue, we're just adding ideas on top of the problem instead of actually addressing the problem. And that property tax conversation is for a different video as well. But what if we were actually addressing the root cause of these problems? It's really important to me, and that's going to be a core value of my campaign, is we're going to stop adding layers of ideas and band-aids on top of problems, and we're going to get to those roots, we're going to dig those out, and we're going to do something else with it. We deserve a governor who listens and who works with communities to identify realistic solutions, not reform. I have made the mistake of using the word reform, by the way, in some previous videos. And not band-aids and not more layers to the onion that makes all of our lives more difficult. Someone who is not afraid to fight for what is right, even if it means ruffling some feathers along the way, because I think I will ruffle feathers along the way, because I want to bring people into rooms that don't like talking to each other and say, hey, let's have a conversation. Let's, as adult grown people, talk about this and figure out what it is that we're going to do. So in our journey together, if I'm elected governor of Wyoming, it will look like this. I will be guided by faith, and I always strive to have a moral compass with the decisions that I make. I will keep family at the heart of my agenda, ensuring that every single policy asks the question, what does this mean for Wyoming families? I will guard your freedoms, because that's what made America and Wyoming beacons of hope. And I will also lead with an eye for the future, so that we can hand that down to generations. Heck, my future, I want to enjoy it for my future as well. So not just for future generations, but for the people that are here now. So let's talk about real solutions. I talked a little bit earlier about real solutions, not endless legislative band-aids to everything, and I want to talk about what the path forward looks like. I hear a lot of people I've spoken to, just as I started this run for governor just about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And a lot of them say, whether they're conservative, in the middle, far right, far left, a lot of them say, why are we stuck in this cycle of the same thing year after year after year? And why are so many of our solutions just adding more bureaucracy to our lives. And I'm here to tell you that one of the things that I want to do is I want to stop the endless legislative band-aids and the burdens that affect all of our lives. You might wonder, well, how am I going to do that? I'm going to bring people to the table. In an ideal world, what I want to see is people in education having conversations with legislators before legislation is created, going, hey guys, let's get together, let's have lunch. We don't need to do it. It's not in committee yet. It's not on the floor yet. What can we do together to help educators thrive and succeed? Because I think what part of the problem is we get all of these ideas, we legislate these ideas, and the afterthought is, oh, let's bring the educators in and let's talk about that. And I realize some of that happens in committee and things like that, but what if we started having those conversations first? Ask the educators, what do you guys need from us, the legislature, to do this? What do you need from me, the governor, or from the state to do this right? Doing those things first before we legislate the thing to death. So we need a fresh approach in Wyoming. And that's what I'm running on. One that's willing to sit down and listen. And you know what? I'm not always going to agree with everybody. I'm certainly not going to agree with a lot of the ideas that people have on the left. That does not mean that I can't be civil and I won't sit down and have coffee with them and actually hear them. Because you know what? One of the things I've been thinking a lot about is a little kindness changes hearts. If you are kind to people, they will be more open to seeing some kind of middle ground with what you believe and what you think. And so, as governor, what I will seek and strive to do is bring people to the table before it's a problem. And stop adding layers to everything. Instead, what I really want to lead people into doing is let's look at what we have for education when it comes to legislation and go, how did we get here? What is the root problem of this? And let's fix it instead of just adding more and more layers. So now I'm going to talk specifically about a couple of issues, here in Wyoming. Taxes. We're having a massive conversation right now here in Wyoming about property taxes. But guys, it's not unique to Wyoming. If you look across the nation, everyone's having this discussion. Idaho, Florida, Montana. Everyone's having this discussion and going, what do we do? Because people cannot afford to pay their property taxes. And a lot of people have a lot of different ideas. Some of them are simple, some of them are complex. We need to stop putting band-aids on tax reform. I'm not using that word anymore, by the way. Reform is what we're doing now. Band-aids is what we're doing now. What we need to do is come up with actual solutions for all of the people of Wyoming that are fair and equitable. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I think it's Senate Bill 282 that's coming to my mind right now, where we're just taxing people based on what they paid for their home. We're going to stop all this reassessing and assessing. The people that are struggling right now paying their property taxes would not be struggling right now if we did taxes based on when they bought their home. Because guess what? They could afford those taxes. But now they can't afford taxes. I've looked at my own family. By the way, senior citizens aren't the only people on fixed incomes. My family's on a fixed income. I go to work. I make this much each month. This is what we have to budget on. This is what we have to live on. Most of us are on a fixed income, so it affects all of us. So gutting the thing and doing things in a way that people really aren't thinking about doing, actual solutions. This kind of fixes a lot of the problems. Eventually, the goal should be to have zero property taxes. You can't just do that in a year. That you have to follow some steps and actually make a plan for that. But the goal should be zero property taxes at some point. Education, you guys. We have used our kids as political pawns for decades. In this nation, in Wyoming, it's no different now than it was last year or the year before, where our kids are political pawns. Our education system, our teachers are political pawns. I mean, we're even trying to polarize our educators more right now. You know, politically polarize it even more. You know, I want you to think about this when it comes to education. I'm going to move on because it's kind of a topic of its own. But when you think about the decades that we have legislated education, let's try this, let's do that, let's try this, let's do that. And then you look at the results in public education. Yeah, Wyoming's doing really great. We're like top 4 in the nation on these subjects. Yeah, but it's like 43% of the kids are in the top 4, right? Like we're not succeeding at public education. And I don't think it's really the educators' fault per se. I think they've been handed a bill of goods from the government, from the, from legislation, from the nation's education institutions. They've been handed something that doesn't work, and they've had to try to make it work for decades. So let's stop doing that. And let's sit down with educators and legislators in Wyoming. And since we probably won't have the Department of Education, let's come up with real education solutions. Let's gut the thing and start over. Let's do reading, writing, and arithmetic. Let's get back to a classical education approach. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, and interest-based learning. And I think we've got a lot of good things headed in that direction. But we're not seeing a lot of solution right now. We're adding more layers. We're making it harder for our educators right now. We're not making it easier. So that's a challenge. Let's talk a little bit about government spending, because that ties in to the first topic I talked about, which is property taxes. We are blessed in Wyoming with one of the lowest tax rates in the nation. And while I understand the plight of those who are struggling, and I think families like mine are struggling too, we've got it pretty good. I've been seeing budgets from various counties and cities and things over the past couple of weeks, because everybody's going, we want to see the books, we want to see the numbers, and yes, there's waste, and yes, a lot of that can be identified, and yes, we need to doge Wyoming, we need to do that. But again, why has government gotten so expensive? Why has government got so big? I want you to think about this. When this legislative session started this year, I think there was over 800 bills. Now a very small fraction of those are going to make it to the governor's desk and become law this year. But when you think about the size of that, and imagine if all of that would pass, what is that costing the taxpayers? How much bigger is that making government? We're doing the same thing in a different way, but we're not looking at everything, and we're not cutting. Well, we're cutting over here, but then we're moving those funds to something else that we're interested in, right? So what does real solution look like? We need to do the same that the federal government's going. That's no surprise that we need to doge the thing, right? We need to go line by line. We need to see what's going on. We need to stop the waste. I'm just going to tell you, in all the states in the U.S., yes, there's waste in Wyoming, but I don't think it's to the level that people think, and definitely not to the level of the federal government. And why do I say that? Because I have met so many public servants, and they love Wyoming, and they really do have the best interest in mind, whether it's on the city, the county, or the state level, and it's just a complicated mess that most of us can't even wrap our brains around, you guys. So that's government spending. A lot of times it does feel like government is like a teenager with a credit card, right? And they're just, so we need to look at that. Kids and family is something that I'm super, super passionate about. And even in steps further than being done now. Our kids are exposed to so much on technology. There's no boundaries. Our children's minds are being wiped out by immorality, by evil things that are being put into their eyes. The amount of violence and the sexual things, and all of this stuff that's going on with our kids and our family. There are some great bills, hopefully going through right now. The obscenity bills, the bills that will require websites to put in true ID if they have explicit material on them. I mean, I'd like to take some of those issues a step further. You can check on my website for that and take a look at that. But it's wrecking our children, so looking at how we can protect our children and maintain their innocence so that they can just be kids. I think it's just really, really important to me. The next thing is energy. We all know that Wyoming is an energy state. And whether you don't like or like our current governor, Mark, he's at DC talking about energy. He's pushing Wyoming can lead in energy, and these are the ways that Wyoming can lead. I think energy is a part answer to how we get rid of our property taxes. But there needs to be a plan in place. We can't just hack the thing to death, because then, especially in our rural communities, especially in our communities, not like Laramie County where I live, or Teton County, or even, Casper is, or anything like that, we have to think about our counties, that if we're hacking, how will these counties be affected? And that's part, I think, why we're not seeing a solution coming out yet in the House on property taxes. But energy, let's turn it loose. We can do that. Let's get with our energy leaders in the state. Let's come up with a revenue plan that allows us to look at the phasing out of property taxes entirely. And then we don't worry about it. Of course, then we got everybody in the nation moving here, right? Which, a lot of them, they'll be here 1 or 2 winters and they'll get blown out, right? They'll go, yeah, we're not staying here. I've met a lot of people like that. They survive 1 or 2 winters and they leave. But also tying in that with being responsible, with our resources and being sustainable with it. I'm not going to get into green energy and stuff like that. I have a whole bunch of thoughts about that. But in tying that energy into something, I think it's important to me. I don't consider myself an environmentalist. I consider myself a conservationist. Growing up, I was known as the nature boy, because I would lead hikes and I would teach kids about this kind of tree, and this is that kind of bird, and this is that kind of flower. And I consider myself an outdoorsman, even though I work at a desk a lot of the time. I would much rather be outdoors, fishing in a stream or something like that. But balancing energy desires and needs, and state needs with conservation, and enjoying this beautiful state, that we've been blessed with and that we've been given. So with that, I just have a little bit to wrap up, and then if anyone's watching or wants to make some comments now or later, feel free to do that and I will get back to you. So in conclusion, this is just kind of how I want to wrap this up. All these issues that we've got, taxes, education, gun, personal rights, property rights, government spending, kids, energy, conservation, all of this, they're not going to go away, but what we can't afford to do is just layer more and more short-term fixes on things, half-baked reforms, and just call it good. Because guess what? We're going to be talking about it again next year, and the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. So my commitment to you, is that we are going to address those challenges with courage, honesty, and long-range perspective, ensuring that the solutions that we create will stand the test of time, and we'll stop having to have this emotional up and down and just stress that we all have every year. What's going to happen this year with taxes, or with this or with that, So as I move forward and we move forward in this campaign, one of the things I want to mention is I can't do this alone. This is grassroots. I want you to share your ideas and stories with me. I want your feedback. This is not about me standing on a stage and telling you what's going to happen. It really is about us coming together. I like standing on a stage and having conversations with people, with things that I'm passionate about. I like doing that. I think it's fun. I know I might be a little bit weird, but I enjoy it. That we're neighbors helping neighbors, and that we have that unbreakable bond, the land beneath our feet, and so, I would really just ask, if you like the content that you see on my channels, you like some of the messaging, and you want to talk, or you want to share it, comment, please do so. I would really, really appreciate that. I would ask for your prayers. This is not an easy journey. My family is my kids are my greatest fans, right? My family is back and forth on whether or not this is a journey that we really want to go on. And for the longest time, I haven't gone on this journey because of that, because it's dirty and ugly. And I'm not going to run a campaign like that. So keep my family in your prayers. I think together we could build. We got to rebuild the thing. We got to gut it and rebuild it. Government, education, taxes, all these issues that we're just doing year after year after year. We need to clean it up and start over. That's what I had to do with my own business last year. So I understand what it takes to do that. So with that, let's stand firm on faith. I'm going to put our families first and guard our freedoms and face the future by crafting solutions, not band-aids, not reform, but by crafting solutions together as people, as legislators, as educators, as counties and city leaders, crafting actual solutions for real people like you and me, that we can go, okay, I don't have to stress about that anymore. I don't have to think about that anymore, year after year after year. So anyway, thank you for being here with me today, Wyoming. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to see this recording after it's recording. I'm hoping this live stream worked really well. My computer could not, which is over here, my computer could not handle the live stream for some reason. I think it's maybe just a little bit older than it needs to be. So I am doing this on my phone. So hopefully this came across well. And those of you that have watched it or are watching it now, you were able to see that. I don't see any comments or anything right now. So I'm just hoping it's good. I'm kind of flying solo tonight. I'm going to have some help on future events. So we'll kind of be able to monitor things a little bit better. But yeah, this was the evening test run for, having some of these virtual town halls and hopefully getting some interaction either tonight or ongoing as my campaign goes on. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and say good night to you, Wyoming. I hope you guys are blessed and safe. I know the wind is crazy, at least here in southeast Wyoming. We're getting blown away, and a lot of our roads are closed right now. But yeah, stay safe out there tonight. If you have a loved one or someone that you care about or think about that you haven't talked to in a while, I want to encourage you to pick up the phone, talk to them. If they're in your house, give them a hug. Remember that all of this that I'm even doing right now, at the end of the day, it's what we do with the people that we love and the people that we are around us and the way that we impact them that really matters. This thing that I'm doing, running for governor, it's a hard thing. But at the end of the day, it's those folks that are upstairs, playing. Actually, where kids are running around up there, they have friends over and stuff like that. That really matters, and we could fight about the issues. We could talk about the ideas, and we could be cruel to our fellow man, or we could choose a different path. We could choose to be uplifting and positive. That's one of the things that I'm committed to in this campaign is, I know people are going to ask me about the other people that are running for governor. I know people are going to ask me about policies of other people. And, I'm going to run and tell you about what I stand for. And I think that that's what's important, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for anyone who jumps in the race. In fact, I've reached out to Brent, who's also running. Some of you may or may not know. And I've emailed next month and have a conversation. That's the kind of governor I would be. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to write the email. And I'm going to say, you know what? Instead of us, whatever it is that we're doing on the campaign trail, let's talk. Let's be civil. Let's get together. Let's talk about our visions and ideas. And let's come up with a uniform plan that can benefit the people of Wyoming. So with that, thank you for those that have watched or hopped in. I've seen a couple of you hop in and out. I appreciate that. If you like this video, please share it. That's what I'm going to need. When I end the stream, I'll save this. I'll upload it. It's going to be raw. It's going to be unedited. And hopefully, you guys can enjoy it, share it, comment, talk to me. Guys, talk to me. I want to hear from you. So please do that. With that, have a blessed night. God bless you. Take care, and I will see you next time. Bye now.